All right. Good afternoon, everyone. In a short while, I will be joined virtually by our guest, Dr. Rick Pieperkorn, who is the World Health Organization representative in the West Bank and Gaza. And he will be joining us from Gaza. But first, you just heard from the Secretary General, who made a special appeal for peace in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, ahead of a summit tomorrow with the leaders from the East African Community and the Southern African Development Community in Tanzania. He added that next week in Addis Ababa, he will take part in a summit-level meeting of the African Union Peace and Security Council, where the crisis will be front and center. He said his message is clear: silence the guns, stop the escalation, respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, uphold international human rights law and international humanitarian law. The full transcript is online. Turning to Gaza, the Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Tom Fletcher, accompanied a UN aid convoy into the Gaza Strip today, where we and our partners continue responding to immense needs as part of a prepared scaling up of our operations. In northern Gaza, Mr. Fletcher toured two hospitals, Al-Shifa in Gaza City and Al-Auda in Jabalia, where he met with patients, staff, and management. Leaving the Al-Auda hospital, Mr. Fletcher spoke with survivors and returnees in Jabalia who are trying to rebuild their lives amid the rubble. The Undersecretary General also visited the only operational water well in North Gaza Governorate. This well, which is run by the UN Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA, serves as a crucial lifeline for clean water, given the extensive destruction of Gaza's water infrastructure. From the north of the Strip, the Undersecretary General crossed the Netzarim area into Deir el-Bala in central Gaza. Throughout his visit, Mr. Fletcher held discussions with humanitarian workers from local and international non-governmental organizations, as well as UN agencies, stressing the need to seize the opportunities presented by the ceasefire to sustain and expand relief efforts. OCHA's partners supporting water, sanitation, and hygiene services report that they are distributing 2,500 cubic meters of safe drinking water daily across Gaza and North Gaza governorates, serving 411,000 people. One of our partners is also providing cleaning services at 17 displacement sites in northern Gaza, benefiting nearly 12,000 people. Water, sanitation, and hygiene partners are carrying out assessments in locations across the Strip to repair water wells, install dosing pumps, and set up water filling points. While some repairs are already underway, further progress hinges on teams being able to clear debris and carry out assessments of explosive hazards. Meanwhile, in the West Bank, OSHA reports that Israeli forces' operations are intensifying in Jenin, Tulkarm, and Tubas, severely restricting Palestinians' access to essential assistance, including water, food, medicine, and supplies for infants. In Tubas Governorate, Israeli forces have been operating in the Al-Fara refugee camp for 5 consecutive days. They've imposed a curfew, reportedly prohibiting residents from leaving their homes. They also bulldozed roads and damaged water networks, forcing residents to rely on collecting rainwater. Turning to Sudan, the resident and humanitarian coordinator in the country, Clementine Nkweta Salami, warned today that South Kordofan and Blue Nile states are on the brink of catastrophe, as the violence there continues to escalate at an alarming rate. As of yesterday, the civilian death toll following recent shelling in South Kordofan's capital, Kadugli, had increased to 80, with some 36 others injured. In a statement, Ms. Nkweta Salami condemned the reported use of women and children as human shields in Kadugli, as well as the obstruction of humanitarian aid and the detention of civilians, including children. The western Nuba Mountains, which extend into South Kordofan and West Kordofan states, are among the areas in which famine has been identified by the Famine Review Committee of the International Food Security Phase Classification System, or IPC. Ms. Nkweta Salami stressed that humanitarian needs also remain critical in Blue Nile State, amid reports of mass mobilization for conflict. She also called on all sides to the conflict in Sudan to de-escalate tensions, protect civilians and civilian infrastructure, and allow humanitarian organizations safe and unrestricted access to those in desperate need. Our colleagues from the peacekeeping mission in the Central African Republic, MINUSCA, report that the National Elections Authority has shared an encouraging update on the ongoing voter registration process for the 2025 local elections. As of today, 98% of registration centers, covering 11 out of 20 prefectures in the Central African Republic, have successfully opened with a total of 570,000 new voters registered. MINUSCA is currently supporting the government of the Central African Republic through enhanced coordination and planning for the opening of voter centers in the remaining 9 prefectures. The mission supported the deployment of nearly 1,000 electoral kits across these 9 prefectures. The presence has significantly improved the security situation and helped create the necessary conditions for an inclusive electoral process in the region. The second phase of voter registration for the 2025 elections begins in March, ensuring that all eligible voters can register and participate in the upcoming elections. The election date has not yet been determined. Our colleagues at the UN Children's Fund, UNICEF, today published a report which says that air pollution in East Asia and the Pacific is linked to nearly 1 in 4 deaths of children under the age of 5 and can impact every stage of a child's life. The report says that household air pollution caused by solid fuels used for cooking and heating is linked to more than half of all air pollution-related deaths in children under 5. Additionally, 91% of children in the region, 453 million children, live in countries where ozone pollution exceeds WHO guideline levels. UNICEF is encouraging governments, businesses, the health sector, parents, and educators to urgently address air pollution's impact on children by strengthening climate and environmental policies, adopting clean technologies, and advocating for cleaner environments, among other measures. The full report is online. Today is the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation. More than 230 million girls and women alive today are survivors of this abhorrent practice. In his message, the Secretary General said eradicating this vicious human rights violation is urgent, and it is possible. We are making progress, but we must pick up the pace, he said, adding that we must strengthen global movements to break down harmful attitudes, beliefs, and gender stereotypes, as well as bolster strong partnerships between governments, grassroots organizations, and survivors. And finally, we would like to say thank you to our friends in Thimphu and Ljubljana for their full payments to the regular budget. Any guesses which 2 countries have those capitals? Slovenia. And what's Thimphu's capital? What's Thimphu the capital of? Bhutan. So the payments from Bhutan and Slovenia bring the number of member states on the honor roll to 42. So any questions for me before we get to our guest? Yes, Edie.
Thank you, Farhan. First, I want to put on the record, on behalf of all of us, our dismay and annoyance that the Secretary General did not take any questions at the stakeout on Congo after canceling previous press encounters.
No, I take your point, and we'll try to have him speak to you and take questions as soon as we can.
On Mr. Fletcher, is he going to have any press encounter? Because we hear a lot about his activities from you, but I do not believe that anyone has gotten a chance to talk to him.
Yes, we will be in touch with our humanitarian colleagues, and we'll try to make him available, including once he's back here in New York. We'll try to see what we can do to bring him in front of you. Okay, Deji?
Sorry, another follow-up. When will the new schedule for Secretary General to have the press conference he promised on January 16th?
We are rescheduling this as quickly as we can. I do have some travel to announce over the next days. The Secretary General, as you know, already told you that he's going to Addis Ababa next week, and there's some other places he'll go to, but we'll see what can happen after those.
And what does the Secretary General have to say on the report that President Trump might sign an executive order to put sanctions on ICC?
We have been making it very clear the need to support the work of the International Criminal Court. Obviously, the court is independent of the Secretary General and of the UN Secretariat, but they're a crucial pillar of the international justice system. Ibtisam.
Follow up on Gaza, why isn't the Secretary General, why didn't he visit Gaza yet to show support for the people of Gaza and what they're going through?
Well, Secretary General's trips oftentimes take resources away from places that are in need, so he wants to do it at a time when it will be useful. But certainly a number of UN officials have been visiting Gaza, and I just spoke to you about Mr. Fletcher's visit. So we've kept a lot of high-level visits going, but certainly he will go there when his presence on the ground can be a positive for the people of Gaza.
But I want to push back on that because it's how would it take any resources? I mean, him going there will bring more attention to the need, and probably he will be able also to bring some journalists with him, especially international journalists that are not, or non-international, that are not from Gaza and are not allowed to enter. So to say, so why is he not even trying, as he did in the past, went to Rafah at least. He didn't go and enter Gaza, which was disappointing, but the people of Gaza need to feel that he is there for them and not only with words.
Oh yeah, no, he's aware of the needs of the people of Gaza, and he wants to do things to help them. So we try to plan his trips, but to plan them in a way when they can best aid efforts on the ground. And so that's what he's trying to do. Yes, please.
Chris with the CBC. Farhan, does the Secretary General have any plans to respond directly to President Trump's recent comments and actions relating to the UN?
I believe we've responded about issues pertaining to the UN in different ways. So if you look at the comments from the Secretary General and from the spokespeople over the past weeks, you'll have seen how we've dealt with different issues involving, for example, the Paris Agreement, the World Health Organization, and other such issues. Yes, please.
Thanks, Farhan. The President of the United States is saying that under his plan, the Gaza Strip would be turned over to the United States by Israel at the conclusion of the fighting. Since I wasn't able to ask the Secretary General himself this question, I'll ask you, what's his response to this?
I'm not aware of what the planning is about this, but certainly you've heard what the Secretary General said to the committee on the establishment of the inalienable rights of, on the exercise of the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people.
Does Israel have any right to hand anything over to the United States in the Gaza Strip?
You know what the status is of the occupied Palestinian territories. You know that the status is subject to negotiations. And like I said, the Secretary General spoke at this meeting yesterday afternoon, and I would just refer you to his remarks there, where he makes very clear what his belief is about how the area should be treated.
And yesterday, the spokesperson for the President of the United States gave some conflicting information from what came from the President, but she said that the plan was for the United States to remove Palestinians from Gaza temporarily. What's the UN's position specifically on that?
Again, you'd heard what the Secretary General said, particularly that no approach should involve any ethnic cleansing. Yes, Maggie.
Thanks, Farhan. Do you have any update for us on the impact of the shuttering of USAID on specific UN programs?
We're studying what this means in terms of delayed payments, but we are trying to make sure that we have money that is sufficient for the operations of what we do and what UN agencies do. If there's specific difficulties that we have at different times, we'll let you know about those.
But Steph said he was going to give us a little more detail on which agencies are impacted, how much money, which programs. Like,
yes,
can we get something on that
we're
soon?
reaching out to the various agencies, but we'll see what we get from them. They themselves are evaluating how they can operate and how any delays in funding would affect that. Yes.
Thanks, Farhan. Just as a follow-up from my colleague from Al Jazeera, the status is not that clear for a lot of people, so maybe it can be clear that you reprecise it. That's the first thing. The second thing, I know already you're going to say it's too fast, we need to confirm, but there's reports today that some people from the Department of Government Efficiency, the US Department of Government Efficiency from Elon Musk, have entered the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and have erased some data from the word weather. So can we expect in the couple of days not a remark, but a reaction from the Secretary General? And also, could we have someone from the World Meteorological Organization arrange for us to explain us why the data from the NOAA are so important for the world? Thank you.
Well, certainly that data is important in terms of making measurements about climatic conditions. But we'll see whether we can get someone from the World Meteorological Organization on that. Yes, Deshi, and then Sinan.
First, got a question on Ibtisam's first question, whether the SG is going to visit Gaza or not. Technically speaking, it's being occupied by Israel so far. Is that correct?
It is one of the part of the occupied Palestinian territories, and you know what the status has been for the
still
last.
has the persona non grata status by Israel. So technically speaking, he probably wouldn't get any grant to get permission to get into Israel.
I think that's
Is that a
hypothetical,
reason?
but certainly when we make arrangements, we have to make arrangements with all the various authorities on the ground.
Okay, my last question actually. Prime Minister Netanyahu, when accepting the interview, he praised the Trump plan, said that what's wrong with that? They can go, they can come back, they can relocate, they can leave. What's your response to Prime Minister Netanyahu, the Prime Minister who also built walls to siege Gazan people before this happened? And he said now they can leave. What's wrong with that? Then what's wrong with that when they siege Gazan people?
I think any departures of people from any area have to be voluntary, and we stand against any efforts to force the relocation of any population. Sinan and then Stefano.
Thank you, Farhan. On Syria, as you know, according to some news stories this morning, the Syrian new transitional government army took control of Afrin, which is in northwest Syria. And as you know, in 2018, Turkish army operation because of that operation, about 100,000 people were displaced. And now people trying to go back to Afrin city. And I wonder if Secretary General or Special Envoy, how they can make sure these people can go back to where they belong to.
Well, part of Mr. Peterson's work is trying to make sure that all displaced populations can return to their homes. And so that is one of the efforts he's dealing with the sides to ensure. Stefano?
Thank you, Farhan. Does the Secretary General have any comment on the case of the so-called Al-Masri case? He's a Libyan police chief that had a warrant by the ICC. He went through Italy. He was arrested, but then the Italian government released it, actually took him back to Libya.
I believe I'll leave any comment on that to our colleagues in the International Criminal Court. Pam?
Thanks, Farhan. What is the latest plan to increase the budget or at least amend the shortfalls on WHO? It's not only the United States that's pulled out, other countries. There's Argentina mentioned it yesterday. I don't know if they formally did. Is there a plan to increase budget? And if not, how will it affect all of the things that WHO does?
Well, we've talked about the importance of funding the World Health Organization's work, but for particular details, I'd refer you to the World Health Organization. I believe Dr. Tedros and other officials have made clear that they're trying to get the funding support to make up for the budget gaps that will be created.
And that'll be done by them,
Yes, I mean, the World Health Organization has a different set of funding mechanisms, including voluntary funding. So, but they reach out both to member states as well as sometimes to private donors to make up shortfalls.
Thank you.
Okay, Edie?
Thanks, Farhan. One of the UN agencies that was mentioned in this room as having great difficulties as a result of this cutoff of funds was the International Organization for Migration. And I had asked Steph to see whether we could get some details of what that issue was.
We'll check and see whether they can provide any details about that. But also, of course, feel free to contact the IOM yourself as well on that. Yes, Chris, and then Ibtisam.
Will the Secretary General Farhan be a part at all of the conversations happening next week when the King of Jordan visits the White House on Tuesday, I believe?
The Secretary General has some travel next week. I'll tell you more about that tomorrow. Ibtisam.
Thank you, Farhan. On Gaza, is there anyone from the UN organizations who collecting evidence regarding, on the ground, regarding war crimes or possible war crimes committed during the last year and a half?
Well, in terms of evidence of different human rights violations, there have been officials from the Human Rights Office who've been monitoring. But regarding commission of crimes, of course, the relevant body dealing with that is one that has opened up a prosecution, which is the International Criminal Court. So I would refer you to them on that.
And I have a question regarding the occupied territory in the West Bank. Can you confirm the number that more than 20 or 23,000 Palestinians were displaced in the last few months from Jenin camp and surrounding areas by Israelis? Thank you.
I believe we shared some information about displacements. I don't know whether the number is as large as 23,000, but certainly the Palestinian Authority has maintained numbers, and so you could rely on the numbers that they have. And Edie, on the IOM, what I can say is what they've told us is we're aware of the U.S. government's decision to pause all foreign assistance funding and are complying with all legal orders, as we do with all directives from our member states. While we continue to analyze the impacts of this action, IOM has a long-standing history of collaboration with a diverse array of governments across our member states worldwide. And they pointed out that they remain committed to constructive dialogue with the U.S. leadership to underscore the mutual benefits of collaboration. So that's what we have from them so far. Abdul Hamid, do you have a question online?
I thought that there are no questions online today. We received that letter, so. But my question again, I still don't understand why there was no separate statement regarding the position of the US president. I mean, in history, they will not find the statement in a speech. They will look for a separate statement. Can you explain why there was no separate statement regarding this major development? It's an earthquake. It's not just a passing by statement by the US president.
All I can tell you is that the relevant points that the Secretary General had to make, he did make, and they were part of his remarks that we put out yesterday when he spoke to the committee on the exercise of the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people. All right, and with that, let me turn to our guest, Rick Pieperkorn from the World Health Organization. Let's try to get him up on the screen.